Did you go outside? No.
Ya, ya.
Regarde, il est là. Regarde, il est là.
C'est drôle de voir.
Regarde comme ils sont proches de moi.
Ah, viens, 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 viens.
Est-ce qu'il est là? Oh, il est là.
Non, je l'envoie.
Alors, il est là.
Incroyable. Regarde ça, la forme. C'est spécial. Pour nous, c'est vraiment...
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the beluga habitat of the Vancouver Aquarium Marine Science Center. My name is Dorian, and in approximately 5 minutes, there's going to be a beluga show. It's the 4:30 beluga show. It's the last beluga show of the day. So I invite you to come and join me for the show and the trainers, and the belugas will probably invite you as well. So just to make sure, in preparation for the show, that we have to have the glass cleared. Everyone has to be behind the white dots that you see on the cement area. So probably best to find yourself a seat in the heated area, just that's directly behind me. It's getting a little bit colder in these winter evenings, but it puts us
research, and they've taught us a lot about different behaviors and different social dynamics you can expect between belugas that we've been unable to study in the wild because it is so hard for us to get in those types of environments. So we're starting to So Lou has immediately spotted Brian and he's come over for a bit of a tongue rub. Beluga whales seem to really enjoy getting their tongues rubbed. Now, I know I enjoy a back scratching. They probably many of you do as well, but beluga whales like not only that, but tongue rubs as well. Beluga whales have very small appendages that you'll notice in the emac with Laura, and you can even see a bit of a tail fluke on the side. That they are very small. Those are considered the steering wheels of the beluga whales. But part of the reason why they're so small is to conserve heat. Now, a great view of that blubber is to see around their entire body. Now, watch for something on both of the beluga whales. They're missing something on their dorsal or backside that's commonly seen on all whales. Now, beluga whales have a dorsal ridge, but they're missing something called a dorsal fin that you will see on the killer whale or even white whales and dolphin. They have very large dorsal fins. But as they spin, it's difficult to find out or to figure out which way is the front or the back of the beluga whale. Now, with all that blubber that you saw as they were turning around, it is around 40% of their body weight. And that is a lot of blubber. So they're not seen doing acrobatic behaviors very often. In fact, they only go around 9 kilometers per hour when they're just spinning around, but they can speed swim at up to 22 kilometers per hour. So watch for this very acrobatic behavior by the beluga whales. Aurora in particular puts a lot of height. Now you may not look all that impressed at that behavior, but this is an extremely acrobatic behavior for an animal that can weigh up to, Inak on the right hand side weighs 1,000 kilograms or 2,200 pounds, and to propel himself out of the water is fairly impressive. So those are great dolphin leaps by Alua and Inak. Now you notice what Brian and Laura have in their hand is some food. Now the animals are fed food all throughout the day, whether or not they do the behaviors, but it's a great way to tell the beluga whales that they've done a really good job at the behavior that was asked of them. Beluga whales are very keen with, you can see Inak watching Laura quite closely, and you can also see some gray around the tails and around the eyes. That's because both Inak and Alua are not nearly as old. They're around 20 years old. They're not nearly as old as Cadna, who you can see possibly later after she comes out. Now, Inak and Alua are swimming throughout the habitat. You can see that the water sort of distorts their color, and under ice they can be even more difficult to observe. Example of why they make all sorts of squeals and squirts and noises to communicate with each other, but they also are able to make high-frequency sounds out of their melon. So the melon is the fluid-filled area that you see right on the top of Inak's head, and that area he's able, or all beluga whales are able to control and move around to echolocate, just like a bat, bouncing off high-frequency sounds in order to receive a message or a sonar picture of that environment in that very dark blackness in the winter. So you can see beluga whales have the ability to move their lips. This is a great example. Laura and Inak up front, they have the ability to squirt water. This is an excellent ability for them to have when they're trying to find food. They are opportunistic feeders, which means they'll eat most anything they can find throughout the water column, including worms. So if they go down to the sandy bottom and they squirt water into the sandy bottom, they can actually squirt up some animals and eat them up. Now beluga whales are some of the deepest divers. They can dive up to 600 feet deep in the water on one breath. That's 15 minutes of a dive. Now when they surface, usually they'll have to stay there for a while and breathe and get used to a lower pressure, because as you go very deep into the ocean, the pressure is so great that it can actually cause harm in humans. Whales have adapted for this, however, or have adjusted for this environment, in that they can collapse their ribs and their lungs very tight so they can go quite deep in their environment. Now notice in the back, Brian is holding what looks like to be a large Q-tip. And at the end is the very white ball that gives a target for Alua to look at. So she's moving up onto some very shallow waters. Beluga whales, because of their very small pectoral flippers, small tail flukes, and no dorsal fin, can slide up very close up on the beach. And you can see she can see that float very easily that Brian was holding out for her. So she is in a very shallow area. This really helps them when they need to escape from any sort of predators. Can anyone think of a predator in the Arctic that would find beluga whales as a delicious meal? A killer whale, yeah, that's correct. Transient killer whales have been known to eat beluga whales. They will chase them, but because beluga whale or killer whales can have up to a meter-high dorsal fin, it's very difficult for them to slip under the ice. So belugas have that protection by being able to slip easily under the ice without getting caught with that dorsal fin. Also, polar bears are a very important predator for these animals that they have to be aware of. In the winter, when the water is frozen, there are breathing holes that the belugas can bounce pictures off and know that they will be there. And when they come up, there may be a polar bear waiting around that breathing hole to grab a beluga. Now, polar bears have been seen by the Inuit in those areas and by researchers to swipe and pick up a beluga whale with one single swipe of a paw. Beluga whales have different ways to protect themselves from this. They have very thick skin. Their skin is so thick, in fact, that it was used for the prototype of bulletproof vests when those were first being invented because their skin is so tough and thick. They also have that great amount of blubber around their body. If you do a head-10 symbol, that kind of shows you how the depth of blubber on the beluga. They can have 10 to 30 centimeters of blubber or fat around their entire body. Now, if you're standing along the glass as this man with the camera is over here, you might want to be wary, and you might actually even want to step back because the trainers are coming up, and the beluga whales have been seen even in certain times with guests just in pictures or seagulls around in the environment to squirt at the guests. So this is something that you can see with their lips. Look for those lips manipulating and how they move them as they squirt. So they can't squirt very far. If you have any electronic equipment, do be careful, it is salt water. So those were great squirts by Aurora or Alua and Enoch. And you can see that Brian has that food ready for him, and that whistle you may have heard for Alua is something that tells her that she's done an excellent job and lets her know that that is the behavior that he asked of her. Now you notice those target pulls, both Laura and Brian have them in their hands, and they can be used either on the surface of the water or above the water. This gives a focal point for those belugas. And you'd be surprised how far beluga whales can actually propel themselves out of the water. So there's a great view of Alua and a great view of Enoch. You can see those rolls of blubbers on the side of the beluga whales, and they have quite a lot of momentum in order to get out of the water. Now the trainers would like to wrap up on an excellent behavior today, one that you can see very often, especially by Enoch. He definitely likes to do this certain behavior. Now watch for the very thin gray lines on the tail flukes as you see this behavior. You notice this is one of the only areas, as well as the pectoral flippers, don't have blubber. So this is kind of like sonar panels. They can either be heat up or cool down by the wind. So there's a great view of the beluga's tails. And on behalf of the trainers and myself, Dorian, thank you very much for joining me here at the Beluga Habitat. If you'd like to see the beluga whales from underwater, there's stairs on the right and the left-hand side, as well as an elevator on the left-hand side. And you can go downstairs and see the beluga whales from underwater, as well as see some other animals. And here's some other sound.
We choose places to have conventions. As a board, we sit down and say, you know, what's the good qualities of this city versus that city? And when we talked about Vancouver, we said, well, if we have it in Vancouver, will anybody show up? Look at this. Look at all these people who are here. We have almost 450 full-time registrants for this convention. It is a great city, a great place to be. For those of you who know me, who may have been in my office, you will know that in my office, I have this picture on the wall, and it's
on behalf of Meet at Vancouver chapter, we are thrilled to be your hosts for Convention 2000. We truly hope your convention experience is everything you expect it to be, and more. You are going to be inspired by our speakers, challenged in the seminars, invigorated by fellowship with new and old friends, enjoying the sights and cultural highlights.
And I'm familiar with my ways. Oh Lord, you have searched me in all I do and say.
He has not served who gathers gold, nor has he served whose life is told. In selfish battles he has won, or deeds of skills that he has done. But he has served who now and then has helped along his fellow men. And unless...
In Singapore. Yes, yes.
Say hello to Leon.
Oh, yeah,
Because he's from a lot of furniture making art there. A lot of furniture. When I say a lot of furniture,
classmate?
Well, of Leon's.
Oh, of
Leon Yoder.
Oh,
Yeah, Leon Yoder.
who?
Yeah. And Gene Stolzfus
Oh.
and Calvin King.
Stolfus from Western College?
Yeah.
Victor Stolfus?
Victor, no, that's Victor that's president. They're unrelated,
Oh, yeah,
I think.
I know him because
Yeah.
my son
But
studied
Gene is
there.
in Chicago.
Making a goal that had an impression. But sadly, she came to an untimely end in 1955. I then bought the bridge for Metwood Mart. And to make the place more exciting, I decided to hire musicians and an Indian theme. Aye, it was a huge hit with visitors.
Welcome. I'm Nancy Stewart, 7th owner of Chapel Island Extension Bridge Park. Very early on, I became intrigued with the human and natural history of this park. I wanted to share this with you. I have done so through presentations such as this and others that you will find when you're wandering through our park. So please enjoy your visit and discover the spirit of Chapel Island.
Ini namanya apa nih?
Ini ada Capilano Suspension Bridge.
Apilano.
Ya, saya namanya